Today is extra special. We're unboxing the brand new iPhone Air, and it is not every day that Apple adds a new iPhone to the lineup. Now, the iPhone Air looks to be the new premium, the new luxury iPhone, but with that super slim design also come a smaller battery and a few compromises that I think you should know about before buying. Now, in this video, I'm going to be unboxing the Air. I will also get it up and running so I can share with you my impressions right away. But first, I am giving away this brand new iPhone 17 in white. And for a chance to win, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and subscribe to my second channel, Tech Book by Dion, link in the description, and then comment your favorite feature of the iPhone Air with your Instagram username, and follow me on Instagram at Dion Schuddeboom, where I'll announce the winner on the 31st of October. Alright, so the iPhone Air, not 17 Air, will start at $999 and comes in 256 gigabyte like all iPhones, including the iPhone 17, which I just unboxed before this video, so it's great to see these iPhones start at that storage price, although I would expect that here for the iPhone Air. And let's take a look here at this design. Ready to lift the box? 3, 2, 1. And there it is. Oh, interesting. So the iPhone Air actually ships face up compared to all the other iPhones, which are in reverse. So let's go ahead and take it out. Wow. Oh my God. This thing is thin. Wow, I can't believe it. Never have I seen an iPhone even close to being this thin. And it is also surprisingly light. I have to say, it is really, really light in the hand. Look at those shiny titanium rails here along the frame. And here on the back, we get this cloud white design. And I think this accurately describes this color. It's not like a warm or particularly cold white. It's a pretty neutral white. So I guess kind of cloud white. It's a really nice shade. And then here on the sides, we get that really nice and polished titanium frame. This here is now the only iPhone that has titanium. Okay, let's go ahead and do the peel here. Ready? 3, 2, 1. There it goes, that peel off the display, and let's go ahead and boot up this phone. I am so excited. Like, it is rare that Apple makes such a big change to the iPhone lineup and really introduces, I wouldn't call it a new form factor, it's not like a folding phone, but in a way it kind of is so new to the iPhone lineup. Again, adding a new model to the regular 17, and then of course the 17 Pros, and one that is this thin truly is something special. Like, even all things considered, and yes, there are compromises, and I will get into those, it is still so impressive that they've managed to fit an iPhone into a design this thin. And here it is, booted up. As you can see, look at that display. So this here is a 6.5-inch display, so it kind of sits in between the regular 17 and then the 17 Pro Max. And I think that's actually a really nice size, very comfortable. I can reach the top of the frame, I can go all the way, pretty much all the way to the other end of the screen, and because the phone is so thin, it's just so comfortable and lightweight in the hand. Okay, so first impressions, as you can see, I am clearly impressed by the design of this phone, but let's take a look and see what else we have in the box here. Let me flip it over so you can see that beautiful cloud white color. So let's see if they did anything different with the box. So underneath here, this does look a little bit different. We have the okay, no, actually it's pretty much the same thing, just flipped over. We have the same USB-C to USB-C cable, no SIM ejector tool, which here in the UK is kind of special because the iPhone 17 and the 17 Pros do still ship with a SIM tray. The 17 Air does not. And then of course we just get the cable, and then here we have your usual warranty and paperwork information. Let's take a look here. Yeah, that's pretty much all the same. Here, a little card letting you know that you don't need a SIM ejector tool, and then a new energy rating as well. And I think we can thank the EU for that. But no Apple stickers as before. Would have been cool if they had some Air-specific stickers, but I digress. So here we have the phone itself. So the biggest upgrades obviously are going to be this brand new design. This really is the wow factor of this phone, right? It has a thickness of just 5.6 millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and compare it to some other phones as well later on in this video. Now, one of the things I really like though is while I said there were some compromises on this phone, an area where there is really no compromise is in the display. The display is large, it is bright, it is fast, and is truly, truly pro, and is also anti-reflective, which will put that to the test as well. And impressively, in this phone, literally up here in the camera plateau, as Apple calls it, they have managed to squeeze in the A19 Pro chip. So this is the chip from the Pro model iPhones, not the one in the regular iPhone 17. Now, of course, on the back, we do see we have just one camera, so that is one of the areas for compromise. And and of course the other is going to be the battery. Now this is a high density battery, but on a phone this thin, there's only so much battery you can fit inside, so it'll be very interesting to test. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set up this phone now, and then we can take a closer look at some of the features. I can go over more those compromises and see what it is like to use the iPhone Air. I'll be right back. And we are back. So I've now fully set up the iPhone Air, and as you can see, it is ready to go. I've got some apps downloading in the background, but I can go ahead and walk you through some of the new features and talk more about the amazing benefits and also the compromises that come with this design. But let's start off with some of the benefits, and that is of course this super thin design. I've had this phone now for a little bit in my hands, been able to use it very briefly, but I'm still completely blown away. It's just unimaginable to have a phone this thin, this light, with still such a large display that is so comfortable to hold in your hand. It really is something special and unlike any other iPhone, even other phone that I've used in the past. So really huge credit to Apple for making this happen. Again, squeezing an entire almost pro iPhone, and I say almost pro iPhone, into this thin design is really impressive. It's only 5.6 millimeters thin. Let me give you an idea of just how thin that is, comparing it here, first of all, to the iPhone 17, which I just unboxed. And there we go. Look at that difference. It's almost half the thickness, at least visually. And then here, I also have the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Let's go ahead and put that over onto the other side. There we go. And then here for some Android representation, we have the Galaxy S25 and S25 Ultra. And look at the difference in thickness. And this is going to be difficult to really translate through camera, as you really have to hold this phone to feel it, to really understand how much of a difference such a super thin and light design really makes to how this phone feels, how you use this phone, how it sits in your pocket. And this, I think, really is a very attractive feature of this phone that I think will be a great reason for many to pick up this phone. Now, most of the camera hardware sits actually right up here in the top in this camera plateau, as Apple call it. And as you can see, that is noticeably thicker than the rest of the phone, almost double the size. And this is also where the A19 Pro chip sits inside. Now, one thing I did notice is while I was transferring the data from my previous iPhone to this phone got pretty hot, more so than the iPhone 17, which I just transferred to and from before. So that is something to bear in mind. This phone, of course, doesn't have the same thermal management, let alone the vapor chamber that the larger or newer 17 Pros do. So that is something to bear in mind for more performance heavy tasks, really more pro-like tasks, photo, video editing, even gaming. But that is, of course, one of the compromises that you make with a design that is this thin. Now, another compromise that I do want to test right now is the speakers as well. I should say speaker, as this phone only has one. If we look at the bottom here, you'll see we have very few grills. These are basically just your microphone. And the only speaker that the iPhone 17 Air has is going to be situated right up here in the top. So it is a forward-facing speaker, so it won't be firing down, but it is just one speaker. So let's put this to the test. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a YouTube video here pulled up on both phones. Let's go ahead and start off by maximizing the volume here on both on my 16 Pro Max and here on the Air. So let's start off with the 16 Pro Max. Today, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 15 Pro. The question is, should you go for last year? Okay, let's bring over the Air. Today, we're going to be comparing the iPhone 16 versus the iPhone 15 Pro. The question is, should you go for... Okay, so first observation, this audio is clearly very directional, especially when you're holding the phone in one hand. Naturally, there's only one speaker, so when you're watching videos, you do hear the sound only come from one side. Now, not necessarily a deal breaker, but it is a big difference compared to the clear stereo sound that pretty much every other iPhone will have, with speakers both in the top here as well as the bottom. Now, when you are using the phone in portrait mode, of course, this won't be as big of a deal. Let's say you're watching shorts or TikToks or Reels, because the audio, again, just comes from the top, but it is at least still facing you, and in that sense, it does still feel semi-bidirectional, because it just comes from the top, not the bottom, but not necessarily from the left or only the right. Now, in terms of the overall clarity, let me give you a quick little preview once more. Video last year comparing the 15 to the 14 Pro, and let's just say last year's flagship, which is now available at a lower price, or should you get the latest thing? Okay, so as you can see, there's also a big difference in volume. The 16 Pro Max is definitely louder. I would say, if I had to guess, I would say maybe 40% louder or so, just based on my impressions, based on hearing it here in front of me. And also, you get a lot less bass on the air. So you'll notice that the lower tones in my voice don't really come through on the air the way that they do on the Pro Max. So that does make voices sound a little bit higher pitch, or maybe not as natural as they are. Now, of course, the sound is not tinny. It is also not distorted, so I do give credit there. I think considering it's just one speaker, it is a good speaker, but it is still one versus two, and in audio, that makes a big difference. So I would say if the speaker is important to you, that is a definite sacrifice on the Air. But you know what is not a sacrifice? That is the display. So the display on the iPhone Air is as pro as it gets. Now, first of all, in terms of the size, this is going to be a 6.5-inch display, which, as you can see, kind of sits perfectly in between the iPhone 17 as well as the, well, 16 Pro Max, also 17 Pro Max, the sizes are the same. So we have 6.3 inches, 6.5 inches, and then lastly, we have 6.9 inches. And honestly, holding it in the hand, I really like this size. I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I think for me, this is kind of the perfect screen size where I can still comfortably reach all edges of the screen. It helps though that it is also so thin, but still gives you a slightly larger screen than on the 17. So I think in terms of the size, Apple really have nailed it. Now, this phone also is special because it has the new Ceramic Shield 2, not just on the front, but also on the back. So Apple say that on the back, you actually get 4 times better crack resistance. So this is great if you plan on dropping your phone, which would be a very expensive drop, of course. And then on the front, we should now get 3 times better scratch resistance. And this really should help your screen last longer. So overall, Apple say that this phone is actually going to be very durable. Now, the frame of this phone is made of titanium, so that will be more durable than aluminum that you'll find on all the other iPhones. So despite its really thin design, I'm not going to bend it. That's not really what I do on this channel, but I can tell you that feeling it in the hand, this thing feels surprisingly solid. So I wouldn't be too concerned about durability here. Now, just like the other iPhones in the iPhone 17 lineup, the Air also has a brand new 7-layer anti-reflective screen. And as you can see, this does a really good job at minimizing reflection. So to put this into perspective, here we have the iPhone 16 Pro, which doesn't have the anti-reflective coating, just like any other iPhone 16 or iPhone prior. And as you can see, if we look at the reflection of my camera light here, this makes a pretty startling difference, where the reflection is much less visible here on the Air on the right, where it is much more clear over on the Pro. And you can see here with the screen on, as you can see, that again does make a big difference. So you can imagine following maps while you're walking down a busy street and it is sunny. This here will go a long way. Now, I do want to point out though that it is not as good as the anti-reflective coating that you will find here on the S25 Ultra, which is kind of the king of anti-reflective coatings. But still, this is going to be a huge step up if you're coming from basically any other iPhone or most other phones. It still is a relatively rare feature, and I think it's going to really improve the overall quality of life and usage here of this screen. Now, the screen is also super bright. It goes up to 3000 nits, again, making it even easier to see outdoors, and is of course Pro Motion, so you get that 120 hertz super smooth refresh rate. So all of that is to say that when it comes to the display and durability for that matter, I think there's no compromises here on the iPhone Air. But an area where we will find some compromises is, of course, the camera. So we only have one camera on the back here of the iPhone Air. Now, this is a very good camera. This here is a 48 megapixel fusion camera system, and this essentially means that you get 4 focal lengths. Now, Apple say that's kind of 4 cameras in one. I say it's really more like 2 in 1, where you get that main wide angle and then a 2x crop telephoto, which is great for taking pictures of portraits, of people, of dogs, or anything like that. Your pets or objects. And for that, I think that 2x mode is really great. But of course, you do not get that ultra wide lens, which you will find on the much more affordable iPhone 17. And of course, in the Pros, you will get that 4 up to 8x telephoto lens as well. So you do miss some lenses on the back, but the most important lens, of course, that main lens is really good. And that, of course, well, you do still have. Now on the front, what is really cool is we do have a brand new 18 megapixel center stage selfie camera. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got the selfie camera pulled up, and as you can see, the first thing we can do is tap this wider view to get a wider view of your selfie. This is great if you have, say, a group of other people next to you, say as a group selfie. That is great. Of course, this is still a portrait mode selfie, but the coolest part, I think, of this new feature is, check this out, we can actually rotate to take a landscape selfie without having to turn our phone. And this means you still get a very comfortable and firm grip on your phone while getting that landscape selfie and getting everyone in the shot. I would say there's only 2 times in my life that I've actually dropped my phone and it breaking, and the one of those 2 times was taking a landscape selfie. So if this means less chances of dropping your phone, I think that is only a good thing. And this then brings me to the battery, which is probably the biggest, I would say, red flag / point of contention with this phone, and is also the thing that I am most curious to test in real world use. But for now, let's take a look and see how it compares to the rest of the iPhone lineup. So if we compare it here to the regular iPhone 17, and then as well as the 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max, which I haven't unboxed yet, but we'll represent that here with the 16 Pro Max. So the regular iPhone 17 comes in at 3692 milliamp hour of battery, and then the Air comes in at a lower 3149 milliamp hours of battery. So you can see that's roughly, what is that, like 20% smaller than on the 17. And then when you compare it to the hypothetical here, imagine this is a 17 Pro Max, which comes with 4832 milliamp hours of battery. That is a big difference. But of course, in a phone that is this thin, you can only fit in so much battery. That said, I'm not so concerned by these numbers alone, because the battery life, yes, it is smaller than on the 17, but it isn't like half of the battery life. So the biggest question though really is, can this Air properly last you all day? And the only way to find out is to stay tuned for my full review, which I have coming very soon. And then in terms of the performance, I was really impressive that Apple did manage to squeeze in the flagship A19 Pro chip, so the same as on the iPhone 17 Pro models, unlike on the regular 17. Apple also say that this is the fastest CPU on any smartphone right now. One concern that I do have though is thermals, as I alluded to earlier in this video. When I was transferring files over, this phone did get quite warm. Even just now when I was screen recording while showing you the selfie camera, the phone got noticeably warmer, particularly here in this upper area compared to the iPhone 17, to which I just did the exact same thing. So the question is, it may have the same chip as the Pros, but how long will it be able to sustain that high level of performance without being able to cool itself in the way that the Pros can with, for example, that vapor chamber? So in other words, we may see some thermal throttling with this phone when you're running those Pro tasks. But the biggest question with this phone for me is, who really is this phone for? This really isn't for the Pro user, right? For that, Apple has the new 17 Pro and Pro Max, which I think have been greatly upgraded and also really adapted and specialized for those Pro functions. And if you're looking for the best value, in other words, the most iPhone per dollar spent, the iPhone 17 is a wonderful option. So this kind of leaves the 17 Air, or I should say the iPhone Air, in a bit of a tricky spot, where I think this really appeals to those who are looking for the really fancy, most luxurious iPhone that you can get, right? This is sort of the status symbol, maybe more of the statement piece, like the wow factor, right? When you hand this phone to anyone, they're gonna have that wow moment of just how thin and light this is. And I think that that's really who this iPhone is meant to appeal to. It is more like a piece of jewelry than, say, a tool, where the new Pro line I would describe as more tool-like. This, with its polished frame, super thin design, beautiful frosted glass back here, really feels much more fine and delicate. And I think that is going to appeal to a lot of people. In fact, when I showed this to my wife earlier while we were transferring the data, she was really fond of it and really liked this phone. So maybe this will be her next iPhone, who knows? And aside from that, I think my biggest questions about the Air that I'm going to be exploring in my upcoming reviews and comparison videos are going to be to see how it compares to the Pro line, especially in terms of cameras, and then, like I said, performance, but also in terms of battery, as that remains a bit of a question mark. I say this phone has to still last me all day. Otherwise, I would consider it to be a tough phone to recommend. Of course, usage will vary, but I think if it doesn't last you all day, it's going to be hard to go with a design this thin if you're going to be constantly plugging in a battery bank. But I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. I still have to put it to the test, so that'll be very interesting to see. So be sure to subscribe for my upcoming videos to not miss those. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't seen it yet, I will be making an iPhone Air first things to do video to help you get the most out of this powerful and yet slim phone. And I'll leave that video linked on screen right now once that is out. Thank you so much for watching and take care.